one of the questions I got from investors was, how are you going to manufacture in Africa? You can't manufacture in Africa because initially you come with a product, you have this idealistic view of we're gonna set up manufacturing here in Africa. It was just a stretch now, and we had to I think come to terms with that reality and raising funds for a hardware startup for in assistive tech space where everybody thinks the market is very limited, the market doesn't have the purchasing power. It was really difficult. So I think it demanded an extra level of resilience and just believing in the product and the problem and the solution.
Welcome to Tales of an African CEO. So today we're in Nairobi and gonna have an excellent conversation with Brian here. And the idea is to talk about his past, what he's doing now, and the future. So welcome to Brian. Please first tell us about you. Who are you?
Thanks a lot, Stu. It's a pleasure to be here and share my story. My name is Brian Mwenda. I'm an assistive technology innovator. I run two companies. One of them is called HopeCheck, and the other is called Census. But in both companies, I think the mission is really the same. We're trying to increase the participation of people with disabilities in the society. And this is something that I've been doing close to a decade now, and in Africa and across the world. So I sort of believe there is a solution because it's a really tough space, and it's a very unique space where, unlike other ventures, people really struggle to find the problem. I think in this case the problem is really clear. The problem of participation of improvement is very clear, but the solutions are really difficult. Yeah.
I'll hold it. So let me ask you a more personal question. Because you must say, yeah, I'm Brian Mwenda, blah, blah, blah. I need to know more. So, you're Kenyan, you're educated here, etc. Give us a bit more so I kind of understand your journey before you started your company. I'll hold it.
All right. Yeah. So born and raised here in Kenya. I'm very proud of that. I think my journey into entrepreneurship, I really didn't mean to go into business or entrepreneurship. I trained as an engineer, electronics engineer. But then my background, when I was in high school, I went to an integrated school. I think one of the things that Kenya is really good at is, I think I'll call it goodwill. Goodwill in terms of building a better society for people with disabilities, because for us it was a government policy of inclusive education. And this is where I got to interact with people with disabilities, got to see the challenges firsthand. So when I went to study engineering, I was really trying to see how can we use engineering to make a more inclusive world. And that's where my passion started. And I think once I started building products, I really got sucked into making assistive technologies.
Yeah. So, and I was discussing that with another founder earlier, and what I really found fascinating is the deep proximity of the startup you're building to your own personal experience about something, right? That's why I really want to understand the foundation journey. So essentially, in your school, interview, so there are different types of people, including people with disabilities, and you felt that you could be something to make their lives better. This is great. So maybe fast forward, what made you set up Hope Tech specifically, and how did you go about it in the kind of environment we are? Because one of the expressions I use very often is in Africa, we're building the plane while flying it, and we need to tell people to set up the wheels and build a tarmac so we can land. Right?
Yeah, I think you're very correct there. To be a founder in Africa, you really have to have a personal connection with the problem because it's really tough. And if it's something that you don't really care about, you won't really give your all into it. I think for me, being connected, having friends who suffered the challenges of experiencing this firsthand really drove me to be passionate about making a change. My journey started with me visiting the Kenya Institute for the Blind and telling them I have an idea. I don't know what it is, but I have an idea. And I think right from the early stage, I really thrived on partnerships and collaborations and support. from the industry, because they also see the need, but there's not many people making solutions. So they really supported me, gave me a million ideas of products I could build, and mobility seemed to be the biggest challenge. So I went into researching how can we build a mobility assistive device for blind and visually impaired people. I had no training in business. I have no experience running a business. I thought it's you make stuff in the lab, 10 minutes, 2 days you have something in the market. But I think from my journey it was quite different. I think my journey really starts with the Royal Academy of Engineering, because when I was very early on building the product, I got into the Africa Prize for Engineering Innovation, and I think the main goal for that program is to turn engineers into entrepreneurs. And that's where I learned about building a team, registering a business, and actually registered my company when I was in that program, which is really good. I was given a chance before I even registered the company. So we were trained on how to all the other 1 million things apart from product that go into building a business. And I think that's what the Hope Tech journey starts back in 2017.
And Hope Tech, why?
So I usually don't like naming things. So I usually ask like my users, what do you think I should call the company? And one of the guys in one of our group discussions, officially third person, saying, I think what this gives me is hope, because when we were doing one of the user trials, person saying it's somebody who lost their sight at the time. It was 8 years ago, and he said, I didn't know what to do. I didn't have any, like, I couldn't go to school because I know there's no job. But this kind of technology, this kinds of products give me hope that maybe if I go to school, there'll be products to help me to work. And I thought, oh, Hope Tech.
Yes.
And that's how Hope Tech was born.
Excellent, excellent. And I mean, the whole point is to give hope to people for a better life. So that this is great. This is great. So I think one of the things that we really want to understand on Tales of an African CEO is through the founder journey, but also maybe you're an engineer who can tell us about the technical, but also generally speaking, stories about maybe challenges or opportunities you saw. No, we named the channel Tales really to tell the stories, both positive and negative. I think on the continent and in shows or media, we don't tell people enough about the failures or the challenges. I think we need to hone in on it because that's where we learn the most, right? So maybe you want to think about one or two in that journey while setting up full tech and then going forward where you are today. That'll be the next question.
Yeah.
Not too many, just two, one or two.
Yeah. Million.
Yeah.
So I think one of the biggest challenges that I really encountered was the the ecosystem in Kenya was not really built for the kind of startup that I was building.
Yeah.
The assistive technology space almost did not exist at the time, and I was really coming into a really new space. I didn't know about startups at the time. We had sort of bigger startups raising funding, the kind of
Millions.
millions, and but I didn't fit the profile for those kinds of startups. So I was in a space where I couldn't really talk to anyone, and as a result, I made so many mistakes that if it's a founder starting a business right now and you're connected to the ecosystem, you really wouldn't make such mistakes. And one of them was around we made a first batch of products in Kenya and imported them, and we did so many mistakes in that. And I think we incurred a lot of costs and time, shipping, clearing, and carry, and all those things that if I had asked somebody, I could have gotten a solution to. So I think the ecosystem now, there's so many communities you can be a part of as an entrepreneur right now. So I think anyone starting a business right now at the parliament, just join a community, ask questions, don't do anything before you ask questions.
No, I agree. I agree. I think also because you're building what we call deep technologies, it makes it probably harder than software engineering or these other things. Yeah.
Yeah, I think hardware anywhere in the world, building hardware product is really difficult.
Yeah.
Um, one of the questions I got from investors was, "How are you going to manufacture in Africa? you can't manufacture in Africa because initially you come with a product, you have this idealistic view of we're gonna set up manufacturing here in Africa. They're just it was just a stretch now, and we had to I think come to terms with that reality and raising funds for a hardware startup for in assistive tech space where everybody thinks the market is very limited, the market doesn't have the purchasing power. It was really, really difficult. So I think it demanded an extra level of resilience and just believing in the product and the problem and the solution.
Today, you're managing Hope Tech and Senses, but let's focus on Hope Tech for now. So, what is Hope Tech building today?
So HopeTech has always been in the mission of building an assistive device that helps blind and visually impaired people to walk free. So most visually impaired people across the world they only get a white skin to move around, and the white skin doesn't really give them the safety, the protection against obstacles, and that independence to walk without another person. So we've always been in the business of making assistive tech products to give this person the freedom to move independently. Saves cost. I can go into a million benefits of why somebody needs independence. And we started with a smart cane. That's what we launched in 2019. We worked with several partners. We launched a smart cane here in Kenya. And then, unfortunately, there was COVID a few months later after we launched. And that's the point where we got back to the drawing book and started thinking we actually need a product that can sell globally. Because the product we have here, we developed it in a way that it couldn't pass the regulatory tests in Europe, across the world. So we needed a product that could sell anywhere in the world. We had to go back and see how the blind people in Europe move around, how the blind people in Australia move around. And that's the point now we started doing research. So during COVID, we did a lot of research into building this as a product. We call it Sixth Sense. Again, another name that came from users, because it's sort of like a sixth sense to detect obstacles. And so we've been building the sixth sense, which is a mobility aid that detects hazards for a blind person and gives them feedback in terms of audio and haptics. Yeah. And we now have a mobile app. We can add AI and all these new technology that will go along. That we are launching our product actually this year. So I think I'm extremely excited about that. It always seems we are at the end, and then you realize, oh, compliance is a whole mountain.
Regulatory processes,
And it's not as easy here. I'd say Africa is easier compared to Europe. Yeah.
No, that's great initiative. So, one of the things I want to understand in that particular setting is how you funded your journey as an entrepreneur. Because one of the key challenges you realize from content is, if you don't have a side job where when you're building your company, you need to raise money to do that within the company. And so, how was your journey sustaining yourself and raising money for your project?
Yeah, I think it's a tough question. Uh, Bootstrapped mostly for like first couple of years because it's a hardware business. I think uh, my solution was living with friends and relatives, so I had almost zero expenses because I didn't make anything in the business for a number of years.
No grants and things like that, going for competition, grants, etc.
So I did competitions and grants, but purely all the funds purely went to product development.
Yes.
And that's what helped me to build prototypes. And initially, I had, and I think it's a mistake many founders make. I had a plan to build the product to the end, and I think that's a mistake. You should build the product to the next milestone, to the next funding milestone. So initially, I had that plan. So you're starting to pay for things that really don't you don't need now. They don't matter for the next raise. So I bootstrapped with grants and competitions and pitching competitions, and really made use of all the funds to build the products. I was the engineer of everything in the company initially, and then from there I started approaching angel investors. There was, I think, when you do some of this pitching competition, they train you. And some of these trainings, they talk about VCs. They bring VCs to do the trainings. And I spent a lot of time very early on talking to VCs, which was, I think, time wasted. But I didn't know that at the time. So I think as a startup founder, you really need to understand the funding journey, where you are as a business, and what kind of funding is available to you, and just focus on that. Yeah.
I think that whole discovery process is one of the biggest challenges we have because there's no not easily accessible available databases of funding sources, the profile, the type, what they prefer, what they don't prefer. It's a discovery process that can take many, many years, which actually doesn't help. Right? And so, yeah, I fully understand that, but we're in an emerging market. So, what I would want to end with part one with is a question around where you see your company in the next 12 months.
Oh, yeah. So I think these are really exciting times for us. We've really, what I've really focused on in my business is building the right kind of partnerships from an early stage. So partnerships to go to market, partnerships to reach the users, partnerships in terms of getting the word out there. So, for example, we're launching in the UK and Austria. So we have local organizations that support visually impaired people there. So we already have an existing user base that's waiting for the product. So it's exciting in terms of we already have some pre-orders in actually. So looking forward to see how the product works in the market because that's something that we don't know. But yeah,
It's going to be like we say in English, the proof is going to be in the pudding.
exactly. Yeah, and of course, we've been preparing the business to reach the first 5,000 users in the next year. So hopefully we can achieve that. It's an ambitious goal, but we can get there. Yeah.
Look, thank you very much for coming to see us, Ryan. I'm really looking for part two. Thank you.